Attention, all you sex fiends, sinners, degenerates, and deviants. If you're looking for a hot new sex toy, now is your chance. Sex toys don't care about what's in between your legs, and that's the sign of a true ally. Go to either BVibe or Lawand and use code SEXEDWITHTIM at checkout for 20% off your entire purchase. That's SEXEDWITHTIM for 20% off anything you buy from their websites. Check the show notes for more details. Once again, that's Sex Ed with Tim for 20% off both BVibe and Lawand products. Your next orgasm is on me. Mwah! The Sex Ed with Tim podcast is recorded on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaty, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands.
You're listening to Sex Ed with Tim.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Sex Ed with Tim podcast. I am your host, Tim. I am a certified sex educator. I identify as chaotically gay. And Megan, I have a quick little question for you.
You betcha.
What do you call an iguana with intimacy issues?
And I don't even know. A lizard with a... Oh, please tell me.
A reptile dysfunction.
That's amazing. Reptile dysfunction?
A reptile dysfunction. Oh my god. Like me. Please quote the internet and quote the trash that is inside of my head. Because it's so absolutely disgusting in here. So that's right. Listeners, we're going to be talking all about intimacy. Hopefully my guest today can help me figure out what the hell is wrong with me and my intimacy issues and why I can never trust a man. Mostly because they're men.
True, very true.
Oh, yuck. I can't. Oh, Megan, like you have no idea. Like, I am attracted to men, but I do not like men. The idea of letting a man inside of me physically and also like emotionally.
It's because there's so much to learn, and so many of them are just not learning those things.
I know, I can't. But that's why you're here, right? So, listeners,
I'll try my best.
We have amazing intimacy professional here with us, Megan Gilron from The Descendants, from The Good Doctor, from oh my god, what else is there? The Wendy Williams movie? Like, holy fucking hell!
We did an episode on Snowpiercer. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, what the hell? Okay, you know what? Like, what am I doing giving your bio? How about you introduce us to our audience?
Yeah, for sure. So I am on the unceded territories of the Coast Salish people, stewarded by the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish nations, which is colonially Vancouver, BC, Canada. My pronouns are she, her, they, them. I am genderqueer, gender fluid, polyamorous. I am also a comprehensive sexual health educator. And for a long time, I worked in film doing wardrobe, which is one of the reasons why I saw so much of the missing pieces happening kind of in that area. And I had so many amazing colleagues that were supportive of me when I decided to do more of this training and kind of get into this area some more. I'm also a facilitator of consent and boundaries, and I've worked with youth for many years. And, you know, there's some people that as adults, we didn't really learn a lot of stuff when we were teens. And so some of that learning is very applicable as we go into spaces with a lot of adults who didn't learn some basic communication skills or some skills around consent and boundaries. So kind of there's some parallels there as well.
You mean to tell me that as kids, we had poor sex education? No way.
Absolutely terrible sex education.
You're kidding me.
Many of us had terrible sex education.
No,
yeah.
I cannot even comprehend. So, your job title is intimacy coordinator, correct? Yeah. And I know that there's intimacy coordinator and there's also intimacy director?
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
difference is basically theater and like the film industry. So TV, film, motion capture. That's usually in those scenarios and with that setting, we're intimacy coordinators, and it kind of parallels off of what a stunt coordinator or a stunt or fight director would have been. Or is, sorry, that there's fight directors in theater, and then there's stunt coordinators in film and TV. So in theater, we're intimacy director, and it's kind of logistics around like the unions representing directors. And so if we say on a film set that we are an intimacy director, it gets conflated with the directing department. And there's that kind of just politics involved in the naming.
Labels and politics. Fun.
Seriously.
Always so fun.
And the hierarchy of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, fun. So sexy. So what exactly is it that, okay, for consistency purposes, because it sounds like you've done both intimacy coordination and intimacy directing. I'll just refer to you as an intimacy professional, because that's kind of what you are. So what exactly does an intimacy professional do within like production?
You bet. So our role is basically that we are an actor's advocate. We are a liaison between the performers themselves and elements of production, whether it be directors, producers, wardrobe department, all of that kind of stuff. We kind of have this go-between with the communication aspect. We're also movement coaches. So we do help with the choreography of the actual sex scenes. We help support with implied nudity. If we have scenes where our actors are, when you see in the final cut, they're naked, they're not actually nude. Usually they wear modesty garments. And oftentimes, even if we're seeing genitalia, we are seeing a prosthetic, very, very good prosthetic. And so we're helping to navigate all of those little elements. And when it comes to film, especially, we're looking at what are the specific shots that we're trying to get. What particular angles are we doing? That's within the boundaries of the performers themselves. So often we'll go to the performers, ask them what their boundaries are and what they're consenting to being, what is being shown on screen, what is also the choreography that they're going to be doing that will help to make that depiction. And we're talking with the director about their vision for the scene. What in their best case scenario, what is their wish list of things that they would love to have in the scene, and tell us the most graphic stuff. Tell us everything that you would like to see in that scene. And we can reflect with you going, okay, well, with this person's, with these performers' boundaries, we know we can do these elements. We might want to change aspects depending on, again, what the needs are. But we're trying to help make that vision possible with a lot of ways that I think in the past, directors may not have thought of, simply because we now have a practice and a way of creating a storytelling that's elevated. Like I research it, right? Like my research is ethical porn and art and apps like Dipsy, where there's audio erotica, and I'm thinking about what's happening as the story is happening orally. And then I'm kind of creating what the image is in my head and thinking, oh, that's a really cool shot. Oh, we can do this angle over here. And so like, I love talking about sex, and I love teaching about sex, and I love coming up with things that are lacking in our mainstream representation in our media about sex. And so if I get to like bring some of that, forward to our mainstream audience, it's so exciting to me, because it's exciting and it's new to our mainstream audience.
Oh my God. You said so many things. No. You said so many things.
I also repeated myself a couple times.
No. Because it's like, I'm in such awe, and like, I have all these questions that are like bubbling up in my head right now. And I'm just like, I want to ask all the questions, but let's see how much we can fit within the tight little hour we have here.
Tight little hour.
Wow. The tight little hour, just like my whole, no, it's not tight anymore. I'm truly aging and I'm rotting. I'm recording this while I'm recovering from anal fissures, Megan. So,
oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I hope you have one of those little pillows.
Hernia pillow. That's the most intimacy I'm going to get for the next little while. Just someone, just an inanimate object, just rubbing up on my butt. But I've been sitting in an Epsom salt bath just to help me out. But it's truly embarrassing. I don't know why I'm saying this on the show. But
because it's all about being transparent and about normalizing all the weird things that happen to our bodies.
Yep, exactly. Well, I don't know if it's weird when I like just push the douche just a little too far up my bum hole. But that's a conversation for another time. But I wow, like in your biography that you just spilled it right in front of me, I'm like, whoa, so many questions. Um, I'm trying to organize my thoughts here, but I want to rewind back to bare bones, basic. What exactly
You
does
bet.
it mean to be intimate? What is intimacy? I know that's kind of like a either a really
Mm.
hard or really easy question, but like, what does that mean?
I think intimacy ranges from vulnerability, whether that's emotional vulnerability, being open with someone about, past experiences or trauma that you might have or desires that you might not have told anyone else. So that's very vulnerable and intimate. And then there's intimate ways that we share our bodies with each other and with other people. Some people think that, being full nude is not as intimate an act as, I don't know, being close with someone and having them touch you in a way that you've never experienced before, or um, you know, opening up an idea to a new practice or desire that's never been explored before. When it comes to the professional aspect of my job and intimacy that we describe, like we'll say it's you know, um, simulated intercourse. It could be also familial intimacy. So sometimes we come in to support where there's a child or a youth and they're having a relationship with a parent who's not their actual parent or guardian, right? So having them have conversations about safety, about what touching is okay, like if it's a dynamic between a child and a parent, like what kind of hug is okay, that kind of stuff we can help with. Um, Sometimes we also help with scenes of distress or like sometimes grief. Sometimes there's elements someone passes away, or for example, my team is working right now where we're working on a show that includes suicide. So that's a very like vulnerable, intimate thing that happens, and depending on the context of the story as well, like how it impacts the other characters who are kind of left behind. There's other elements of intimacy that folks might call us in for. It's not our like bread and butter as it was, but it can be helpful in those cases. And we also have mental health first aid training. So we can help support cast or crew if there's any like triggered moments that's causing a real person distress when they're at work, right? Because being on set and doing that is your job if that is what you do.
Right, right. Wow. That sounds like a lot of emotional labor and whoa. Um, I don't know if I could ever like be that conduit, like mental health first aid. What do you mean by mental health first aid? Like, do you have, I don't know, some psychic syringe and bandages ready? Like, what do you mean by mental health first aid there?
Um, so if someone might be having, I think part of it is understanding body language, understanding what kinds of things can happen to a person's physical form or their physiology when they're under duress or they're experiencing a moment of trauma or having some kind of PTSD kind of reaction, right? So a lot of the time it's about grounding the person. So exercises might be something like what are 5 things you can taste, 5 things you can smell, 5 things you can hear, 5 things you can see, that kind of exercise, some breathing exercises. I also carry a bunch of different kinds of essential oils. So I check in with everyone in terms of allergies or any kind of sensitivities first. But a lot of times, essential oils and different breathing exercises can help support someone coming back into their bodies. So we're helping them to be more embodied if this is a kind of reaction that's generally focused in the brain. So that's generally the first, again, mental health first aid. We're only the first kind of conduit for that. And then a lot of times we have resources, whether they're specific to film work as a resource or some kind of hotline that people can call, or we often have resources that are specific to, counseling or therapy or any kind of other practice that someone might want to continue doing if they're feeling like this moment is more intense than just right now. We're big fans of counseling and therapy for people to be doing that. Actors, a lot of actors maybe don't initially think of that. It's not maybe part of their training that it's like, hey, if you want to be a good actor, do all these things and also like have a therapist or a counselor that you're seeing regularly in order to mitigate what we call emotional bleed off. So, for example, if an actor is really well studied in their character, we hear it a lot. We've heard, a lot of different performers over the years who have had mental health concerns because they've been
Method
so
acting. Ooh.
method acting. They get so deeply ingrained in that character, and it's really hard to leave it behind. So we do some exercises that are around the premise of de-rolling, so taking yourself out of the role, where we address the character's feelings and the character's things that are happening to them, and then say, like, you as a character, what I as the character of Jody, and feeling the love that I'm having for my scene partner, and da 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 da. So we talk logistically through that, and it helps the brain go, oh, I'm myself, I'm not in love with my co-star. It's the character who's in love with the other character.
Oh my
And
God.
we kind of have to pull that stuff apart
Ooh.
a little bit, because it safeguards the person's own personal life and the relationships that they have in their own life.
Right. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The thought of that is so scary.
Very
It's
meta.
like,
It's very meta.
yeah. Oh my God. Like, I have to believe that the penis I saw in Sex Life is just a prosthetic and not the actual actor's penis. Because I fell in
That
love
is
with.
correct.
No, damn it. No.
But it
Damn it.
happens to us too. It happens to us as audience members, right? When you watch a show and you get really, really into it, and at the end of that show, you finished binge watching, and at the end of it, you're like depleted, and like all your serotonin and all your, all of your good happy drugs have just been sapped out of you because you had this experience along with these characters. Right.
Oh my
So
God.
it's kind of like you need, a break, and then you need to like go for a walk outside, and you need a glass of water, and you need some things to like help it's aftercare. It's emotional aftercare.
The aftercare that I had to go through after like watching, what was the last thing I binge watched? BoJack Horseman on Netflix.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Like the amount of like weed I had to, no, I'm kidding. Just engaging in all of my vices, just
That's
like the main
a good
character.
closure practice.
Wait, closure practice? What is closure practice?
Well, we can go into that if you want to. Unless you
Yes, please. Like, honestly, this
So-
is just a conversation. I'm all over the place, and you're dropping all these gems. So I'm just picking up what you're putting down, girl.
So one of the things that a lot of practitioners for intimacy, so there was a company that initially started out this work called Intimacy Directors International, and they were the first group of people that coined the 5 C's as the pillars for intimacy coordination. So context, communication. Oh my God, am I going to remember them all right now? Context, communication, consent. Oh my God, what's the other one? And then closure. There's 5.
There's something there.
Off the top of my head.
Let's call it, I don't know, come. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, sometimes you have to do that. You're performing orgasm. So closure, coming back to closure, it's about, creating the container for the characters to experience whatever they're doing. And then at the end of the day, or at the end of the scene, to actually create a barrier or a boundary between, the character that you're acting and the person that you are at the end of the day, right? So we do different things for that. One of the exercises we do is like tagging in or tagging out of a practice. So just like how at the beginning of shooting, if they have the slate where they clap the clacker thing,
Mark.
and they tell you, Mark, yeah, okay. So that's like the beginning, and then the end of the scene. They usually do it again at the end of the scene. And so we do something similar where we have the performers face each other, they make eye contact, they take a deep breath in and out together, and then they do like a high 10. And it creates an actual threshold for our brains. It's like if you are looking for a pair of scissors and you go through a doorway into another room, and you're still, and you're like, wait, what am I looking for again? And you kind of forget because your brain goes, the thing I was thinking about was in that other room. And then sometimes you have to go back into the other room and be like,
oh my God.
Oh, now I know what it is. And then you go and get it again.
The amount of times I've had to look for my phone when it's in my hand.
Yeah. So like that's it. And also every time you open and close your phone to do something, and like, oh, what time is it? And then you open your phone and you're lost on Instagram for 20 minutes. And then you get out of it and you're like, oh wait, I'm still looking for the time. Like that's something our brain is actively doing. It's kind of like an Etch-a-Sketch kind of thing where it just like resets. So we're helping our performers to do that with the characters that they're playing, and then them at the end of the day, right? So without all of that stuff, we often have what's very commonly known as showmances. We have performers who are either getting into relationships with each other, which like I have no qualms about people getting into relationships with people that they
They work
connect
with.
well with. But I would say like maybe wait until you guys wrap. Like wait until the show is over and take like a couple weeks where you're not playing the characters anymore and see if that emotion is still there.
Right.
Because then you
Because
also see people
yeah.
who get into it, they're in love, they get married during the show, and then like 2 months after they are done the show, they're like, oh wait, I didn't actually like this person.
I actually just like their character, which, you know what,
yeah,
I
it was my
totally
character
am
and their
here for.
character.
The amount of fictional characters I've fallen in love with, oh, which is why it's my
Many,
standard
many.
for me. It's so shameful. The amount of men I fantasize being like, you know what? I firmly believe that like Chris Evans is just as charming as he is playing Captain America.
I
One day
bet.
I hope to be an intimacy coordinator so I can work with him on set and just like oil up his naked body. No, that's
That's another thing. We have to be very professional on set.
it's so difficult.
I
I don't like
know, I
that.
know.
We've
But
got
yeah,
all these
like
beautiful
being
Hollywood bodies.
when you're expecting everyone else to be respectful to the performers and not making pejorative comments about their bodies, and you also have to stand by that model, and you have whatever's
Damn
going
it.
on in your head, you got to keep to yourself.
Damn it. Ugh, fine, I'll hit on him after we wrap. Oh my
Yes,
god.
after you wrap.
Okay, this sounds
It's just ethics.
really right. This sounds really it's clicking with something in me right now because when I
Mm.
was in high school, I saw a university production of Romeo and Juliet, and
Mm-hmm.
what they did during this production was they had the actors on the stage literally draw a chalk outline on the stage. So we're like, what the heck is that? And after the play like curtain called, we asked them what was the point of that chalk outline, and then they said that the director wanted to give the actors a space on the stage to act out their character specifically, so that outside of the chalk outline where the audience can still see them, they become like, you know, part of the viewing experience. So we see the
Interesting.
actors go in and out of their characters as we watch them. And I was like, that's
Right,
a really
right.
interesting thing. So what you're
Yeah,
saying kind of like resonates with me in that way. It's like you're successfully compartmentalizing specific parts of
yeah,
yourself. Is that what
yeah,
it is?
yeah. Yeah, and like the way we talk about it, if we go in depth, so when we have more time in theater, we do like a longer rehearsal process where we set up, discussions around consent, around how we do our boundary practice. We do check in every day because whatever happens in your personal life also is something that can affect you when you're acting. So it's like a space to come in and go, I'm feeling a little emotionally unstable today. Physically, I feel fine. These are the same areas that I don't consent to being touched on. I'm fine with all these other areas being touched, but I want you to be gentle with like my left shoulder because yada yada. So there's like a check-in that we do. And if we have a longer amount of time with a company to really talk about these things, that is what we talk about, where we're addressing, where you come in and you're the actor, you're the performer, and your body is an instrument to be utilized to tell a story. And you as a person still have the right to say like, actually, I don't want this kind of touch happening to me. And that's really uncommon for a lot of actors because they've gone through all of this training, which specifically speaks to like yes and to everything, right? They're being expected to like tell that story and not always check in with themselves and go, actually, is this something that I'm okay with? Just because you're an actor. And that's something that, a lot of production people will often say like, well, you signed up to be an actor, so then you signed
Right.
up to be
Yeah.
fully naked and fully,
We
simulating
forget
the
that they're
sex
people too. Oh my god, actors are people
and
too. What?
making assumptions about what they have or have not done in their personal lives, because that's where directors in the past, I know personally, I had, my high school experience, I was in Romeo and Juliet and had the director be like, when you kiss and blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't be like, I've never kissed anyone yet. What are you talking about? Like, are you making me tell everyone that I haven't kissed anyone and I have to do this now? Like, that's the kind of stuff that then poor performers are having in the back of their heads, this like anxiety that's going on because, oh, I haven't done that thing yet. So how am I going to portray that on screen or on stage? And as an intimacy professional or as a choreographer too, it's like, I don't rely on your personal life at all. I have tools and I have resources that I can pull from and say like, hey, we're talking about, the power dynamic between these two characters. So in this moment, who is leading the kiss? Who is leading this moment of intimacy? How are we telling the story that they're leading? Well, there's a moment of eye contact. Then that eye contact goes from the eyes and drifts down to the mouth. And they kind of hold that eye contact with the mouth of their partner for a few minutes. And then the other person kind of just teeters forward a little on their tippy toes. And then that's the consent for the other person to move forward and make the lip contact. So we actually tell a story inside all of these little intimate moments. And when we expect actors to figure that out on their own, it gets very blurred line between, again, what am I as a performer and what is my personal life? And am I perceiving that my scene partner is trying to take a little more because they like me, or they're doing something because they don't like me? And now I don't know what I'm doing, and it's all very confusing.
It's
Whereas
really
if
just
they
your
have,
breath.
if they have an actor, yeah. And like if you have someone outside of that who is aware of both people's boundaries and how everyone wants to stay safe, and you have that person saying, okay, so person A is going to lean in for one breath. The eye contact is going to change from the eyes to the lip, and person 2 is going to move forward, and then there's going to be lip contact. It's much easier as a performer to go, someone is telling me what the story is, what the framework is. And yes, I'm going to use my instrument, my body, to do the thing, but within my consent, right? We're working with all these different components all at once. And again, like the IC or the ID or the director can only ever give permission. It's like, oh, hey, I think this would look really well in this moment. Could you guys try that? Or could you folks try that action? Only the two performers can consent to doing that thing. So then they have to check in with each other and consent. Oh yeah, that's a good story point. Let's definitely add that in there. Oh yeah, do you mind if we do that? But I'd like to hold the kiss for an extra beat because I think it would tell a bit more about my character here. So they also, we want them to engage with each other and have this vocabulary so that, it's an ongoing practice.
Right. And that's where you step in, where it's like, okay, Jennifer Lawrence over here is not really feeling that. And excuse me, Steven Spielberg, she does not want to do that. Like, I don't know, I'm just name dropping.
Usually we don't usually say who is actually the person who's not consenting to something, because that can throw people under the bus. Right. We definitely want to say just because of boundaries here, or we find also we're very sneaky. We find other ways to tell for example, if we do have a moment, for example, vascular reactions happen. Penises get hard, vaginas get wet, nipples get hard. This shit happens to our bodies because our brain is going, oh, body, you're in kind of a sexy position right now. Should we do the thing? And your body and your brain's like, no, it's not the time. This is like a public thing we're doing. Just cool it down. And so anyway, we basically have a little protocol where we give a thumbs up to our performers. If they don't give us a thumbs up back, then we go in and we check in with them and we pretend oh, here's some water, or here's a breath mint. And when we're doing all of that, they can be like, hey, I just need 5 minutes to cool off. And be like, yeah, no worries. You go and I'll just stall.
Go to your trailer, jack off, and real quick.
Cold shower, more but yes.
Cold shower.
take care of whatever you take care of. Cool yourself down. Actually, you can hop on the balls of your feet or on the heels of your feet. If you just jump on your heels, it actually makes an erection go down.
Ooh, okay. Because my erection is always up, as evidenced by my co-host Richard, the giant penis right behind me.
Right, Richard? Jump on your heels. Jump on your heels.
I actually called him Richard because that name contains two of my favorite states of being rich and being hard.
I was going to say, and his name is Dick.
And the nickname is Dick, right? Exactly.
We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Yes.
I want to let you in on a little bit of a secret. So, did you know I have a Patreon? For as little as $1.50 a month, you can access all of these episodes early and without these pesky fucking ads. I know they're so annoying, trust me, but girls gotta pay the bills, right? And then if you want to pay a little bit more, you get access to some bonus episodes. Plus, you can also access the exclusive Sex Ed with Tim Discord, where you get one-on-one time with me every month. We can talk about anything that you want, It can be like a sex ed kind of thing, or just a little kiki if you want some advice on sex, dating, love, whatever. I highly suggest you don't, because I don't even know if I'm taking the advice that I give out. But hey, it's all fun, and I hope you subscribe. I will see you on the other side of this ad. Mwah! Do you like feeling sexy and looking sexy? Of course you do. Only my listeners are sexy as fuck. I have partnered with fetishwear designer Dale Kuda to bring you the hottest deals on custom jock straps, harnesses, hats, and more. Head over to dalekuda.com, that's DALEKUDA.com, and use code SEXEDWITHTIM at checkout for 25% off the entire store. Yeah, you heard me. 25% off. And cherry on top, free shipping. Oh my god. I have a few of the stuff that he has made for me, and girl, I'm wearing it right now. I'm wearing like a little jock strap so that I could easily just like slip a little butt plug or dildo every now and then here and there. And I'm on the train. I'm just like, thank you, Dale. That's dalekuda.com with the code SEXEDWITHTIM for 25% off your entire purchase with free shipping. With a deal like that, I swear I could come buckets, honey.
The show is about to begin.
Yes.
So, like, just hearing about all this, it is so wild and so cool that, like, your whole job is just so fucking cool. Can you, like, take us back to how exactly you got into it and why you wanted to become an intimacy
For
professional?
sure. Well, so because I went to university and was studying costume design at the time, and I was taking other classes, directing, acting. I was getting a little bit of everything while I was at school. I also was a resource coordinator for the not great named, but like the women's center at school. It was with a Y too, which again, anyway, there's like a lot of layers in there about like
Right,
the
yeah,
words
yeah.
and everything that we're using. Because I didn't think that was actually very trans friendly. So anyway, and at the time, like again, being at school and kind of getting really involved in sex and gender studies, and really getting interested in, yeah, I mean, part of the storytelling in certain scenes. And I ended up directing a play that was a short, like 15-minute long play. And the playwright had written it where the three men in my play at the very end of the show all end up getting naked. And the scene is the play itself was about
Ooh, three naked men?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was about these guys all talking about, kind of this competitive nature of like penis size and things like that was part of the discussion happening. Because the one guy is talking about how he was trying to have sex with his girlfriend the night
Mine's
before, and
bigger.
she laughed or she giggled or something, and it was misconstrued as her laughing at his penis size and all of this kind of stuff. So I'm figuring out, like, as a director, I want people to focus on the directing. I didn't want my show to be like the penis show or the show where everyone got naked. So I tried to figure out like what was a modest but still not hiding from it. So I actually got these like nude like booty shorts, and I had my costume designer paint the penis on the front and like a butt crack on the back, so that it was
Mm-hmm.
kind of stylized. And they all had to wear like jock straps so that they all were like a uniform size. So there was no
Okay.
actual, you couldn't really
Uh-huh.
see the size of anybody.
My
And then it
mind
was
is
just
racing.
as a like femme presenting person in a space with another female performer who we were both like clothed, and we're going to be doing our jobs clothed, and throughout the process of rehearsal deciding, okay, so at some point you all need to start undressing because that needs to be in the choreography of like when we take off a piece of clothing, throughout the play. And at some point you're going to be wearing these underwear, but we don't have them made yet. So like even the actors found it really fun. Every day they would wear a different kind of underwear that they brought out, their like Superman underwear, or their like, whatever cute underwear they had at home. And they found a way to like make it really fun. And, again, we kept it within the container of rehearsal and different things like that just got me really interested in this whole premise. And then when I was working as a costumer in TV and film, I was like seeing everywhere that they were specifically on a project where they were hiring a lot of folks from like the UK who they were used to working a particular way. And then in Canada, it felt like they just weren't advocating very well for these performers. And it was a TV show that had like mermaids in it, and the mermaids would be coming out of the water and then would be naked for different times. And they didn't have someone who was there, again, like supporting the performers and making sure that there was consistent communication between the wardrobe department and the director department. The director saying, oh, actually, I wanted to have full back nude, but the costumer had prepared modesty for them to be wearing something on from their waist down. And then on the day, it felt like there was a component where the director was trying to push for them to do what the director wanted, but it hadn't been pre-negotiated, and the performers didn't have like proper nudity riders and everything that's normally a legal thing that has to happen for those kinds of scenes. So when I was seeing all this kind of stuff happening, I was just like, there's got to be something else like that people can, you know. And at the time, a friend reached out to me and said, like, because he knew that I was doing lots of sex ed stuff, and I was just really into all of this kind of content. And he was like, I just worked on a show where they had an intimacy director, and I thought of you. And I like heard the name of that job, and it just like a shiver went down my spine. I was like, what's that? I have to do it. And then I found out that there was like a course happening in Banff with who is now my colleague, Siobhan Richardson. So I did a course with her, and I've done trainings with a lot of different organizations that are predominantly in the States. One is called Intimacy Directors and Coordinators. The other one is called Theatrical Intimacy Educators. And now I work with an organization in Canada, and we're building up our training program as well as like a resource hub and a community for people. And we are called the National Society of Intimacy Professionals. And that's like more of a community-based thing. And then the company that I work with for my for-profit stuff is Principal Intimacy Educate. It's a whole. We have lots of
right.
There's a lot of links.
Yeah,
I
for
can
sure.
add them at the end.
I'm going to get you to plug it all in the end, and I'm going to add it in the show notes for sure.
Bet.
Yeah, because I want to be an
so
intimacy professional now too.
Yeah,
like, this sounds
and so like,
fun.
and you're in Toronto, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's some folks working out there. Definitely getting
Perfect.
connected.
Yeah. No, because like I already have my certification as a sex educator. I want to like do stuff, not just because I want to touch Tom Hiddleston in Where the Sun Don't Shine, but you know, like this sounds like a gap in the industry, especially with like the arts and media industry. There's like a gap that needs to be filled. No pun intended with my sexual innuendos. But has this always been around? Like, is this intimacy professional job like a new thing that's just coming out of the woodwork, or like, has it always been there?
I would say that it's more recently official in that we are now dealing with unions, and there's like the efforts to put our job properly in the film and TV industry. However, I think that people have been doing some form of this job for many, many years, and different directors, including aspects of this practice into what they're doing. A lot of people who practice right now have their own protocols and best practices that they've been developing over many, many years. There's a lot of different people that have added a lot to this movement. And also, like, not ever to ignore or erase the fact, because it has happened, that Black and Indigenous and people of color and people who are sex workers and people who are working in the porn industry, people who are in the kink and BDSM communities, they've been doing these practices for many, many years. And we lend and borrow aspects of that. I myself am in the kink community. I practice shibari, and there's a lot of amazing skills that you learn when you're negotiating boundaries and consent within some kind of scene that you can bring into this practice. So there's a lot of those communication skills and a lot of that like awareness of body language and things that you can learn.
Consent
or that
and
a lot of
boundaries.
people,
Yeah.
Or folks who are in, dom sub type relationships. Like, there's a lot of nuance and a lot of really rich, just like relationships and communication that lends itself to this kind of work. And then on top of that, there's like actually being a theater practitioner, actually being a film practitioner, knowing just the politics, because there's so much more of that. And that's the part that really sucks about this job. So I hate to like burst that bubble, but it's like 85% emails and phone calls and navigating conversations with
Fun.
producers and getting nudity riders written up. Like that part is, it's a doozy. And there's a
The
lot of
administrative work, and then you get to set, and it's like, okay, this is like the 15% that's fun, where I get to like
Right.
choreograph a sex scene or something.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Exactly.
Now you got me thinking, like, how many people on a typical production set are like freaky? Because you said like, you know, porn actors and kinksters and whatever else. Like, because I have a friend who is an assistant director for Netflix, and I want to like hop on set and be like, which one is your intimacy professional? And I want to speak to them and see how freaky they are. Because
but I think it's really important to add that component. Like if you are, or even if you're not, if you're an intimacy professional who's not in the kink community, because like that's totally fine, that you are hiring a consultant, that you're paying for someone whose expertise comes from an area that you're trying to represent on screen, so that you're doing diligence to that demographic. You know, we had so many folks who were upset about 50 Shades of Grey and all this stuff because
really?
ain't nobody been doing
That
their
many?
research. No one doing their research, and you know, like certain things being misrepresented, and really does damage to a demographic or a community that's amazing. My knowledge of, you know, the kink or the queer, polyamorous, polysexual communities are that it's ongoing practice, and there's a lot of you know, there's courses, there's tons of workshops people take when they're getting, I mean, I'm an A type, so I'm like, I take all the courses. I like get, you know, I do it by love by the book.
Me too.
Even my
Give
kink
me
was like
all
by
the knowledge.
for example, like I pay for my like Shibari study subscription so that I can learn things and do it safely. Like that is my jam. And so if someone's, you know, for whatever reason, that's totally fine. Like if you're not part of that community, there's some folks who are intimacy professionals who come from the stunt coordination community. So again, I can't speak to their personal lives, but if you don't have some of that knowledge, please hire someone and bring in a consultant so that the story that you're telling is accurate. And we can see the difference. Like you were talking about sex education earlier. Early in the first couple seasons, there was different things in there that I was like, I really love this show. And there's little bits where I'm like, you could have educated there. Like you could have had a moment
better. Yeah.
When Jean has that little like women's circle and she's like pulls off the little button on that vulva and she's like, this is the clitoris. And I'm like, but that's not what the clitoris looks like. And what a cool moment it could have been if you'd like actually pulled out like the full like wishbone shape thing
wishbone
and been like,
shape.
this is the clitoris. And they kind of just like that teaching moment fell flat. Whereas this season, oh
wait,
my!
I'm not on it yet. I'm not on it yet. Yeah.
Okay,
No spoilers. No spoilers.
Season 3 though is like actually sex education. Like there's some really good stuff in there.
Okay.
That really like, it was dope. There was some awesome sex educators that got plugs too. I don't know, Emily Nagoski.
Emily Nagoski, come as you are. Yeah.
There was a drop in there for her book, and I was like, oh yes,
I love
finally.
it. I love it. In terms of like accurate depiction of sex and intimacy, I feel like that show is like the closest. I mean, it's not going to be perfect.
Really
I don't think ever.
Yeah.
I don't think any show is going to get it perfect. And like, you know, whatever, it's fine. We're human. But like in terms of representation of like accurate sex education information and intimacy stuff, I feel like sex education does like the best in terms of how they do it. Good. Yeah. And that's kind of the reason why I started digging into like this intimacy professional occupation, because it started with sex education, and then I like really got interested in it when I saw, what's that show? I May Destroy You, which is one of the best shows I've ever seen. It is so heavy, and like the way they deal with like sexual abuse and like it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. So
Michaela Cole is incredible, and the fact that she did like told that story, did not, you know, her all of the speeches that she's given, I can't enough with Michaela Cole. She's amazing.
Yeah, I can't. She's so good.
Yeah, and just that she did not let the you know, the integrity of what she was trying to say be lost anywhere.
Right?
That was just so, I have so
Yeah.
much
I
respect
have so
for
many
her.
thoughts and so much respect, and like it's just so fucking amazing. And
Hmm.
because that show employed an intimacy professional, that's where I started to
Hmm.
like really like go into it. I was like, oh yeah, it never really occurred to me that like this specific scene where she was getting assaulted, or like the other her two other friends in that show were also like facing their own type of
Hmm.
assault. Like I forget that, these are actors that are playing a character, but also it can actually affect them in a very like deep and profound way.
Yeah.
And that's so
Yeah.
insensitive of me. It's like, you're just an actor. Like, just get over it, which is so like Hollywood of me. Um but I wanted to ask you about like how do you not deal, but like how do you go about um managing or producing or coordinating, I guess, scenes that are very like heavy on these
Mm.
actors? Like can you walk us through like a day in the life of an intimacy professional such as yourself, like when you're choreographing, um whether it be a nice passionate scene or a very like heavy and dark kind of scene?
Yeah. That's a great question. So, in a general sense, when we get to set, when we check in with our performers, one, it's just to check in about their mental and physical health on the day, checking in if they have anything that we need to be aware of. We'll also check in, depending on if someone has a uterus, like when is your cycle, knowing when their cycle is and if they need extra time, or if, hey, like, that's the day where you're going to be like, you're on your heaviest moment of your bleed, or even if it's the other times in your cycle where it's like, actually I'm quite energized, like I know that my body is feeling this particular way. It just helps us give extra time and extra, I always have extra menstrual products in my kit. I always have extra, we use foam barriers. I actually have some here I can show you.
I wish you had some stuff for actors who get an erection, like just jump on the balls
Well,
of your and the heels of your feet.
sometimes, but then also sometimes if that's something where someone is sensitive, like their body tends to react very easily to things like that, we might also recommend something that's similar to like a tuck, right? So actually
Get a
taping it
drag
down
queen.
if that's what's necessary. We've had that happen in the past.
Hire a
But
professional
honestly,
drag
we
queen to tuck.
use basically just like, these are bra inserts, but like it's a triangular piece of foam that's curved on the inside, and we can cut that to the shape of either the person's like pubic mound, or over like
Oh,
as a
cool.
fit. It's kind of like a soft jock strap, kind of a
Uh-huh.
padding. So whatever underwear they're wearing, we can put that inside. Or if they're wearing modesty wear, which, again, in the more common language, we'd call it, everyone knows it as a cock sock. However, we're changing some of the language. I'm working with a company called the Modesty Shop, and they're very cute because it's the Modesty Shop. We got you covered. I really like
Oh,
the
that's so
tagline.
cute. I love
And
that.
we've developed, also with someone who works in the burlesque community, what we're calling it a hammock, but basically it's a double layered piece of fabric that's kind of like if you've worn Saks underwear or like Grey Ohm style underwear, where it's like curved in the front, but it's quite fitted. So it's a quite fitted front pouch. And then we tape them on. So we actually tape above the pubic mound with like a kinesiology tape or something. And by taping everything in, it's kind of creating like a genderless doll kind of a look. But basically, that means we can contain all of the like flesh and hair and anything else that's
All the
in that
goodie bits.
area. All the goodie bits. We get everyone to landscape before we apply one of these, because otherwise you're going to get a bit of a free wax job. So when they're wearing these modesty garments, we double check that everything is good for the day and that they're comfortable. I mean, as comfortable as you can be. It's a little uncomfortable, but like, are you confident, right? That's usually what we ask people. Are you feeling confident with this? They'll have whatever the modesty garments are that we'll need. Usually with more intense scenes like you were describing, we'll have a rehearsal, and we'll specifically think about the movement, and we'll break that down, because nothing that
Ooh.
we're doing is real. So that means that, for example, if you're doing a stunt fight, for example, and someone goes to hit someone, that the hand is not making contact with the person's face. This person the person who is hitting is making the sound with their hands, and the other person goes to touch their face and kind of makes a reaction like they've just been hit, right? So with intimacy, for example, if I was going to discuss like a scene of oral sex on someone, you have the person who the oral sex is being performed on. Maybe their legs are apart a little bit, but the person who is performing, again, in quotes, performing the oral sex would have their head on the inner upper thigh. So it's kind of like, it should be about a fist or so's width away from any genital region.
Right.
Yeah. So your point of intended contact is always like 3 to 6 inches away from the actual point of contact. And it's all masking tricks. It's all angles and, where the camera is
lighting,
high above or low. Yeah. And so depending on what the choreography is that we're trying to convey, the angle might change or the distance might change. But for the most part, everything is quite far away from the actual point of contact. Right? So there's always a lot of space in between bodies. So we work out the choreography, we work out pacing, proximity, what that person's breath might be doing. Like if you're doing a quick panting breath or a slow kind of deeper in the tummy breath, and then the sound that comes along with that. So again, it's like making a soundscape and having people work through what that breathing. Okay, we're telling the story of penetration. It's going to be a quick inhale and then a low and slow breath out. So it'll be like yeah. So we can actually talk them through what that's going to sound like and what that's going to look like. So we really look at all the choreography. We go back through the beats, just like how you would if you were doing any other scene work. And depending on the actors or the performer's comfortability, we might do it a couple times over and over again until it feels very normal and feels organic that they're doing each step one after another. And so that the part when they're really acting is like minimal, because if we can do a wide shot where they don't have to be putting as much emotion into everything, and then we do close-ups with like the hand moving the dress up the body or, a hand on a breast or whatever, we're getting those close-up shots. And then the one scene where we might actually have them like get into the emotion of it and really like go as far as you can with the, the vocal range and that kind of stuff. We try to keep that as minimal as possible. And like when you're shooting angles on stuff where you're not going to see anything below, like if you're getting these two characters are like really having, a fuck fest up against a wall. And we see that wide shot. And then when we come in closer and we're only seeing their faces together, or we're only seeing a hand on something, like they're wearing sweatpants, like they're wearing something that makes them feel cozy and comfortable in the areas that you can't see. Right. Yeah. So we don't have to always have them in those positions, so that it's really, again, mitigating how much they're in those very, very vulnerable positions. And we also have what's called closed set protocols. So that's just where we're closing down the set. We're making sure that people who don't need like that grip or
who don't need to be there,
makeup person don't need to be there. And then we always have a system for how we disrobe and robe, right? So the camera's already rolling and then we disrobe them and then they'll do the scene and then they'll yell cut. And the first thing that happens is a robe comes in and no one gives notes or no one comes in and changes a light with the performers like naked. You know what I mean? Like, so when we put those things in place, that really helps solidify for the performers, like, wow, I'm really being taken care of. The thing that I'm doing that's very vulnerable is in this very specific amount of time. And everyone around me is respectful of the fact that this is vulnerable. It's also my job. Right. So we're just continuing to like instill all of that into the sets. And I've been fortunate now to work on multiple sets where I've been asked back on the next season. And now that everyone in the crew is really well attuned to how these scenes work, it's so much smoother and it's so much more relaxed and people feel, again, taken care of, and they can come to us with, even crew can come to us with questions or concerns that they might have. Like, oh, hey, I noticed that today on the call sheet, we're going to be shooting a scene of sexual assault. And I have personal experience that means that I just can't be on set today. And I'll be like, great, this crew person that has approached me, I'll be like, we will find, we'll make sure that we've swapped you out with somebody else for that scene. Or, we've moved you to an area where you're not going to witness it if that's not something that you feel will support your mental health today. Like I want to help people do that.
Oh, that's really cool. So
yeah.
and it does take some time to get into that kind of flow. But I'm wondering, like, what about the initial stuff? Because um, I'm thinking like there could be disagreements between cast and crew as to how a scene should go. Because what if the script says character A and character B should be doing it in this specific position because it's like helps the story or whatever, and then
Yeah.
the actors are more like, I don't really feel like that should be done. But then the director's like, no, that's how the script is going to be, so you got to do it. So in that sense of like disagreements between cast and crew or whoever else, what is your role in that, like, tiff, that little bumping heads?
Communicate with curiosity is the general sense of
Mm.
it. So if the director is like really sold on a thing, I would go to that director and go, hey, just checking in. I know that this scene is like really important. This part of the vision is really important. Can you tell me again, like what the essence of the storytelling is that you're trying to convey here? Can you tell me more about the emotions that we're trying to see from these characters? Are we trying to reaffirm this aspect in their relationship where they're exploring this new sexual thing? Like, can you tell me more about that? And as I try to get more information from a director, I can pinpoint exactly what they're trying to get at and why they might be resistant to someone changing their idea. Then I go to the performers and I go, hey, I'm checking in with you because, we were talking earlier about the scene and there seems to be a bit of discomfort, or you don't seem really sure about this. And I wanted to check in with you about why. Is it the particular choreography? Is it something about the characterization that you're not familiar or not comfortable with? I get more idea of that. It might be like, oh, well, I just don't want to be seen from that side of my body. Or actually, I'm feeling like this character at this point in the story, so I try to like massage out of people why there's the resistance. And then I can kind of go back a little bit to whoever the other person is that's having the resistance. And sometimes it has to be like, actually, this is, usually when it comes to more, when I say to a director, if we go in with these 3 contingency plans, right? These backups of like, we'll have this masking, we'll change the story to this, we'll make sure that the performer feels really confident. We go in, we do all of that. We even can go so far as to take, we can take photos of what they're seeing on the monitor and show the performer, like, this is how you look. This is what's being shown. Is this okay with you? And I usually get a performer responding back to me saying, oh, wow, I didn't know it would look that good. I didn't know that you had all these, the lighting was this way and that this angle really works in this context. Actually, like, I feel really good and I'm willing to like show more if that's what's needed in the story. So when the director is kind of pushing initially for that stuff, I often will talk to saying, like, if we start here and we have all these backup plans and we show the performer how this is going to look, let's see if they, feel good about that and then want to go forward. Not saying that we're trying to push them in one way or another. And like, there's a lot of directors are used to a lot of different people coming in and saying, like, you have to do this, you have to do this, or have producers down their back. Like, I understand being a director is really hard because you might want to have a vision and there's 5 million people telling you, like, for different reasons that you can't make that happen. And they're trying to, like, balance that as well. So trying to find something that works for them and also bringing offers that they might not have ever thought about before. Because really, if you think about it, we often hear or see about like 4 or 5 different sex positions. And it's pretty common to just like
Only 4 or
repeatedly
5.
let's just repeatedly do the things that seem to work. And we can come in with like, actually, there's this other position or this other angle that could work really well and really showcases like your 2 performers' faces, like, let's flip the switch a little bit. Let's try something different. And, usually when they see what we can offer, they warm up a little bit. And so again, like, I can't definitively say like, in a particular instance, I do actually try to like give myself case studies of things to kind of like, what would I do in this instance? But for the most part, like, knock on wood right now, I've only ever had those situations open up. I've only ever seen the performer become more comfortable because of all of the care and all of the communication that is happening to make sure they feel really good about what's being depicted. And then from there, they tend to be so confident that they want to offer more, So our job is to help make the performers feel safe enough and confident enough that they themselves will offer, and this is like a quote that I got from Siobhan, but Siobhan got it from another person that she worked with doing stunt coordination. But it's something around the lines of, if we can create a safer space, brave things can happen rather than only safe places where not very not paraphrasing it well, but it's like it's about like when you feel really safe, you will go to that more like artistically dangerous place than if you don't feel safe in that context, and then you're gonna stay inside the safety of whatever it is that you're aware, like that you confidently can do.
Right.
And so then people aren't really taking those artistic risks, right? If we give them a safe space to do that, then people are much more likely to go that distance as a performer and be able to give like their best performance.
Has there ever been like a situation where it's like just non-negotiable, like, and it gets in the way of production?
I mean, maybe a couple times, but usually it comes down to, because at the moment where we're not quite union members, we are there to instill safety, but we can't like put our foot down. We have to still diplomatically go to our heads of departments or our producers or our production managers and say like, here's the issue. We know for a reason that the actor cannot do this thing and the director's really pushing it. Is there anything we can do from your end of things, on the production end of things, that will allow us to safeguard the actor's boundaries, even though this director's really pushing it? Well, because some directors are also like in a place where they're a little bit of the old guard. They're not really, they haven't quite jumped onto the newer. Again, like I don't know that it's newer. It's just safer, and it's like a different way of doing things. And a lot of them continue to want to like improv. Like we can improv too. We can still create a container and then let the performers improv as long as they're both able to check in with each other and we have that common language. So yeah, there's some resistance, but for the most part, directors that I've worked with who are still very like, I don't know about this when they first meet us because they think we're going to kind of railroad their vision. It's like, no, like, let me tell you how much I love sex and how much I really want this storytelling to go well. But, like we have tools, we have things on offer, we have images, we have resources. And when we get to give you that stuff, like, just give myself a pat on the back when that goes really well. Like your end result is as good as we wanted it to be, right?
Right. Yeah. Oh, I like that. That's so sweet. So like,
when everyone win.
Yeah, everyone wins. We love it when everyone wins. Oh my God. So just this whole conversation on being an intimacy professional, we've covered like consent and boundaries and communication and like just compartmentalizing. Wow, look at all those C's that I just dropped right now.
Yeah.
What are some of the important things that you've taken away from being an intimacy professional that have now that you will apply or to your I don't know, your love life, your sex life? What are some of the things that you've learned, and what are some of the things that you wish people would take away from this conversation on being an intimacy professional?
If you ever feel bored with anything happening in your life, just do a bit of research. Like just get into something that you never thought you would have liked and watch a bunch of it and like read up a lot about it. We're working on a show upcoming. My team is working on a show that includes the Edo period in Japan, and we're doing a ton of research into like shunga erotic art. And like, boy, that stuff is fascinating, and I'm so happy that was a thing, and like that we have those inspiring images. And it's just like, it's a whole, again, it's like a decentered, like away from Western colonial, ideology. And it's just, there are so many cultures in the world that had incredible ideas around sex and sexuality and intimacy and the ritual and the ceremony around it and all that kind of stuff. So that's a big one. It's just like, step outside your comfort zone, even if it's just to look at that stuff that you never would have thought that you were interested in.
Get curious.
And boundaries, all the boundaries, but knowing what your boundaries are and really honing in on how to articulate those boundaries to your partner. And a boundary doesn't have to be a no, stop there. It can be, I am feeling like 60% about this, and I would like to feel 100%. And in order to do that, I need this, that, and the other thing from someone. Like, I just need more information. I need, oh, I didn't realize I wasn't going to like that thing that just happened. Can we debrief about it? And then I can talk about what I think my new boundaries are because we've experienced something. And now I want to sort of talk about it and figure out which part of that I did like, I didn't like. What did you like? What did you not like? So kind of like really getting granular. Like, I think we're so afraid in our intimate relationships because we want to put our best foot forward. We want to be easy to get along with, that we don't think about how much detail we can get into to really be like, what do you want and what do you need? Let me try to get all of that for you. And what do I want and what do I need? And how do we find out a way for me to get all of that too? Right. So
Aw.
yeah. And
Mhm.
boundaries and like work boundaries versus personal boundaries. Like, how do
Right.
you create like the closure practice I was talking about, like my own self-care and the fact that I'm like taking baths and going to my counselor and getting craniosacral therapy. Like, I'm doing all these things to help my own, like, what are my resources? What is the cup that I'm pouring from to give to other people? I have to, be really enforcing of that.
I love that analogy of like, what is the
Oh,
cup I'm pouring from?
yes.
My God.
What
Speaking
is
of
that? Just like rotting water, or is it like chai tea,
chai,
or like is it
exactly.
tequila? Like, what is in the cup?
In my cup, I've got Kahlua,
Oh yeah,
so I don't know what else is in here. I always give myself a little bit of a little pick me up before
just a little
recording.
pick me up.
Yeah, right.
Nice.
And then after this, I'm going to practice some closure
There
practices.
you
Like I'm
go.
going to, I don't know, masturbate or watch some porn just
Hug,
to
hug
hug
Richard. Watch some
Richard.
porn. Go for a walk. All
Yeah,
those things.
just
Yeah,
something to
fresh air.
recenter myself after a good podcast episode such
Good
as this
podcast.
one.
Nice.
You're such an amazing fucking guest, Megan. Like
Thank you, Tim.
you
It's lovely to
are.
be here.
It was so. This was such a lovely conversation, and I'm just like
Yeah.
I'm so curious now about everything there is about the intimacy professional industry, and I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure the listeners are going to be interested in this. So, how about you make like a butt and
Sure,
plug
sure.
away anything?
Make like a butt plug away. That's amazing. I love that.
I ask all my
Bravo.
guests to make like a butt and plug away anything that you would want them to find. So
That's great.
so like your social media or like
So,
how people can
yes,
become an intimacy professional such as yourself and all
sure.
that stuff.
So, if people are interested in like training and information from the organization that I am part of, you can go to at intimacy.society on Instagram. Website coming soon because it's a lot more of an undertaking than we originally thought. So that'll be coming out soon. But there's tons of information in our link tree. We do have some courses coming up. I will be teaching a set representations of intimacy, part 1 and part 2. So the first one is about sex and gender in performance, and the second one is about sexuality and pleasure. I do talk a lot about butt plugs because they'd be my favorite. But
Oh,
I'm talking about basically representations in the mainstream that we can sort of shift everyone's awareness around. My personal Instagram is at Megan Gilron, MEGANGILRON. And if you want to hire me, you can hire me through www.principalintimacy.com. We are pips. Like, put a pip in your step. I don't know. It's just cute. My colleague and I just
a little pip
have a
in your step,
blast with that.
governor.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, that's so amazing. And I can't wait to start my journey to become an intimacy professional because this
Yes.
sounds like fun.
Reach
And
out.
again, not just an excuse for me to touch Henry Cavill whenever I want to. See him partially naked underneath a little modesty cover. Um, one day it's going to happen.
Maybe one day.
One day we're going to make it happen. We're going to manifest it. So, again, Megan, thank you so much for joining me here on
Thank you,
Sex Ed with
Tim.
Tim. Thank you. And to all the
Oh.
listeners that have tuned in and you've made it this far into the episode, please don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and follow us on Spotify. And I don't know, be a patron because I give you all the nice goody stuff at the very, end of these episodes. And you know what? I love you all. I love Megan for being here and for just everything that's, here. So
Everything
thank you
that's
so
here and
much.
everything that's sexy.
Exactly. Thank you. I could not have said it better myself. And again, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Sex Ed with Tim podcast, and I will see you at the next one. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Sex Ed with Tim podcast. Sex Ed with Tim is created and produced by me, Tim Lagman. Music is Aces High by Kevin MacLeod. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at GaySlutClown and at Sex Ed with Tim. You can also like and follow me on the Sex Ed with Tim Facebook page. If you enjoyed the show, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Even better, you can also support the show on Patreon, where you can get early access to ad-free episodes and more. Thanks for all your support, you dirty little slut. Mwah.